Hey there Facebook, it is Vanessa here, speaker, trainer and head coach at Live, Love, Give. And my message for you guys today has come because some plans didn't quite work out that they were supposed to this morning in my world. And it was all because, I had this incredible interview lined up. I was going to interview one of my greatest mentors, Byron Katie, and it was literally a year in the progress. I reached out to her a year ago to lock in this time to interview her. And, yesterday I had a test call and everything, and, getting all worked out, and I had all my plan and all these amazing questions I wanted to ask her and dive into her wisdom. And it turned out that my internet was supposed to get changed over, and it's been this big drama, and at the end of the day the internet just wasn't at the quality that it needed to be in order to create an extraordinary interview with Byron Katie. So it's had to be rescheduled, and I was all ready to go, room set up, lighting was great, ready for this video interview, and fell through in the last moments. And so I was a little bit disappointed about that. So that is the reason why I wanted to deliver this message, even though I couldn't interview Byron Katie this morning, and it's who knows when I'm going to be able to do that again. Ideally, it's not another year away, but I wanted to bring some of her work to you guys, and I'm hoping some of you guys already know who Byron Katie is. And if you don't, I'm even more excited because I want to introduce you to this incredible woman. And her stuff, everything that she does is just kind of mind-boggling because it's kind of simple yet totally profound and mind-blowing and totally life-transforming. So it's all about ending suffering through the power of perspective, and that's really the work of Byron Katie. I won't dive too much into her story right now because I'm going to save it for the interview, but she's a woman who completely revolutionized her life in terms of being deeply depressed to the point of being on the floor, sleeping on the floor with the cockroaches because she didn't value herself enough to be worthy of sleeping in a bed. This is the sort of state of being that she was in when she had this massive realization that ultimately it wasn't the external world that created her suffering. It was when she believed her thoughts, she suffered, and when she questioned her thoughts, she experienced joy, she experienced freedom. And so that's what I want to dive into and introduce you to a piece of her work today. And just before I continue, I just wanted to, I always appreciate you guys so much for joining me live, that I want to make sure that I say hi. And I know some people have told me it's really annoying, but I'm sorry, I'm going to get this awesome message to you, but I've got to say hi. So Yvette, awesome. I'm going to say your name right. Alvarason, I hope that's right. And Lewis and Belinda again, lovely to have you. And Eric, you're back, I love it. And Chris and Matthew and Tony, sorry I can't say your name. And Anyeta, nice to have you back. So good. And Nia and Yvonne from Mexico, love that. And Jason and Manolo, Superman, thank you for joining me. Love it, love it, love it. Awesome as always to have you guys here, and particularly for today's message, because ultimately it's one that we got to kind of be ready for. But when we actually get this message, and it's almost so simple that it's hard to get, that's the challenge of it. But ultimately, Byron Katie's work is called The Work, so you can check it out at thework.com, and she has this awesome resource online, all for free, to help end suffering. And ultimately all our suffering is mind-made. So I'm going to just run through the small process of what she teaches, what the work actually is, and you can use it. So anytime you're in any form of suffering in your life, you're upset, you're angry, you're negative, you're caught in anger, you're caught in, just any sort of victim mentality, like, oh, they've done something to me. Ultimately, we're creating our own suffering, And what the work teaches us to do is to start with identifying the thought that's actually causing you pain. So I'm going to run through this kind of really simply and easily for you guys, just to give you an overview and just use an example that Byron Katie just uses all the time. So it's a simple one. But ultimately, let's say that you're in a period of suffering right now, and you have the thought, you identify that you've got the thought, say it's in your relationship, and you've got the thought, he doesn't care about me, or she doesn't care about me. And that ultimately, that thought, believing that thought, is creating this pain for you. So you identify what that thought is. He doesn't care about me, or she doesn't care about me. And ultimately, once you've identified what that thought is, you ask yourself, is it true? And the power comes in with you slowing down, sort of using it as a meditative practice, and really inquiring into and questioning your thoughts. So, is it true? Your initial response might be, well, yeah, it's true. It's true. He doesn't care about me. Look what he's doing. You've got this story about what's going on and why you're right to believe that. But ultimately, it's like slowing even more down, and it's asking yourself again, well, can I absolutely know that this is true? Can I absolutely know that he doesn't care about me? And if you slow down long enough with this one, you get to a point where you can recognize, well, I can't know for certain what's going on in his world. All I can do is attach meaning to the behavior that I'm witnessing and my believing in this thought. And ultimately, it's just slowing that process down so that you can find and generate different perspectives. So the next part of it is to ultimately ask yourself, how do I react when I believe this thought? How do I react? What happens when I believe the thought that he doesn't care about me? And you might come up with a series of things. You might feel, that you're not valued, you're not respected, that you're not loved. Maybe it's a physiological response, and you start to get really angry, and you can feel, that shortness of breath, whatever's happening. But ultimately, it's all about identifying, it's your belief in this thought that is generating the pain and suffering that you're currently experiencing. Okay, so it's about disidentifying from our thoughts, creating a period of space so that we can actually question and not just believe every thought that runs through our minds. That believing every thought that we generate in our minds can drive us insane, totally disempower ourselves, and we're kind of at the whim of those thoughts that we can't necessarily control. So it's all about slowing down, recognizing, becoming mindful of what these thoughts are, and then creating enough space to be able to make a choice as to whether or not you will actually choose to believe them or not, because it's in that belief that you generate your experience of reality. So ultimately, once you've sort of identified what that thought is, you've started to question its validity, whether or not it's actually true, and you can definitely know that it's true, and you've identified exactly, how you react and how you respond in terms of when you believe that, what happens to you when you're believing the thought. And then ultimately you ask yourself, who would I be if I didn't have this thought? If I didn't believe the thought that he doesn't care about me, who would I be? And slowing down again, meditating on that question. It's all about inquiry. And ultimately you'll discover, that believing that thought creates your pain and suffering. And when you question that thought, and if you didn't choose to buy into it and believe that thought, you could feel joy, you could feel love, you could have a better connection. Who would you be? You'd be you, without that pain and suffering and that turmoil that comes when we believe in a thought that doesn't serve us and we can't actually know that it's true. We're projecting. And ultimately, once you go through this process, you then find the turnarounds. And this is really, really powerful. This is all about finding the other perspectives, because it's my belief that there's never just one perspective. There's always, you may have heard, always two sides to a story. I reckon there's like at least 10 different versions of any particular story. You can always find a new perspective. So an example of some turnarounds for he doesn't care about me could potentially be, well, he does care about me. Or maybe I don't care about him. Or maybe it's, what else could it be? I don't care about him, he doesn't care about me. Maybe I don't care about me. You're finding all these different perspectives, because ultimately, our experience is our world. We all think we live in this one world, but there's no two worlds that are identical. We're all generating our perspective of the world. And ultimately, it's our meanings that we create and those thoughts that we choose to believe that are coming from our own internal projections. And ultimately, when we can dive into this and use our pain and our suffering as our personal growth tool, like to identify that I'm projecting this belief that he doesn't care about me because I'm not caring about myself, or I don't care about him in this moment. And ultimately, once you identify those different perspectives, you find different ways and genuine examples as to why that's correct. And ultimately, I know this can be kind of a lot of information if you haven't come across it before, but I challenge you to jump on Byron Katie's website, thework.com, and go through this process, particularly if you've got something in your life right now that you are in pain around, you are suffering from. And, it's all about that inquiry, that building that mindfulness to take back ownership in your life and use that pain and suffering as your way to move yourself forward, grow and learn from the experience, and learn a hell of a lot more about yourself. So I hope that, the way that I'm explaining this is valuable to you guys. And I want to, again, check in with you guys and just say hi. And Stephen, thank you for joining me. And Mano and Eric, I'm glad this is resonating. And Anatha, nice to have you back. And Patricia, awesome, Stephen. I'm so grateful to have you back again and glad that this is inspiring to you. And thank you, Mano and Rajveer. Awesome to have you. And Nick, I love that you're loving it. And Theogen, thank you for joining me. Penelope, our thoughts become things. Yeah, so that's exactly right. So whatever goes on internally in our world, those thoughts, particularly if we're choosing to believe them, that's what we see. We see the world through our thoughts. But more deeply, we see the world through the thoughts that we choose to believe in. So you have so much power in creating your own reality. Should you choose to learn the lesson that you can create space and time between the thoughts that are going on in your mind, and ultimately determine which ones of those are going to empower you to move forward in your belief, and which ones are generating your pain and suffering, so that you can build that mindfulness, that consciousness, and excel in your life and reach your highest potential and tap into your truth and stop playing the victim in your life. So thank you so much for those comments. And Jen, yes, the work is very powerful. Like when I came across this work, I was kind of blown away. It helped me so much in some transitions in my life. I've used it with incredible people going through divorces, breakdowns of relationship, deaths, people who are suicidal, anybody who is in this state of turmoil and, in pain and suffering can use this as their way out to freedom. And, we don't have to overcomplicate things. If we just get the message that our reality is based on the thoughts that we've chosen to believe in, and ultimately we identify that we have the power to choose which thoughts we will decide to believe in, how we can empower ourselves to move forward, then ultimately we empower ourselves in all areas of our lives and we can break through. So thank you so much for your comments there, Jen. I'm glad that you've come across this work before. Jeremy, I love having you here. So cool. And Spady and Manu, thank you. And Eric, pain and suffering are there for a reason, but we have the choice to understand them and keep going or focus on the bad and being a victim. The choice is yours. Boom. Yes, exactly, Eric. I love that. And that's the message that I really want to get to you guys. So thanks for sharing your perspective there, Eric. I totally agree, because the choice is yours. And ultimately, that's the thesis of every single message I want to deliver to you guys. That I want you to empower yourselves by knowing that the choice is yours as to your experience of life. So I love that, and yeah, bringing it back to everything beginning with that thought and your choice to believe it or not ultimately determines, your emotional state and the actions that you choose to engage in. So it's all generated that way, I don't believe that we can necessarily control our thoughts. I do, however, believe that we can control which thoughts we choose to believe in, which will ultimately take us on two different paths: a path of empowerment and reaching our highest potential, or a path of victimhood and always feeling like we're out of control and the world's determining our life and our results for us, which is a completely unfulfilling path. So thank you so much for sharing that, Eric. I love that. And thank you, Stephen. That's lovely of you to say. And Maritesh, awesome to have you. So ultimately, guys, drop any more questions or comments that you want, but truthfully, that's my message. I'm so, this morning I was feeling kind of disappointed that I didn't get to jump on this interview with Byron Katie, but you know what? I'm finding different ways of making that mean something a whole lot better, and ultimately it allows me more time to prepare, because I'm not somebody who likes really preparing, to be honest, and I'm kind of just like, I wing it. Like, I often don't know what I'm going to chat with you guys about. And it's kind of become a bit of a running joke with my mum and I. She asked me, what are you chatting about today? And I'm like, I don't know. It'll come out. So I'm going with the flow, but I think that, I'll study more deeply into the work with Byron Katie so that I can come up with an even better interview. And I can't wait to share that with you guys. So it's been awesome to have you guys here. I hope that if you haven't come across Byron Katie's work before, thework.com, you're going to go and check it out, and you're going to go and definitely go through that process. She's got all those free resources online. I really value them. I've had such great experiences, and also with clients and family who've gone through these processes too and had massive breakthroughs, life transforming breakthroughs. So particularly if you've got some pain and suffering, you've got some resentments going on, you're kind of in that victim mentality, whatever pain you're experiencing, whatever those blocks are, this process will allow you to identify what they are and break through from a place of empowerment, because you come up with the answers yourself. And I absolutely love that. And Jen, yes, as always, say I'm the victor, not a victim. Exactly, and that's what that process helps you to do. So I hope that this resonates with you guys. I hope you'll find it valuable. I hope you'll jump into Byron Katie's work. She's incredible. And sending you all my love, light, blessings, all my gratitude for jumping on and engaging with me or watching this later. I love you guys all so much, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow.